She said, "Don't be dramatic." Those were the last words out of her mouth before I read her texts out loud, and she snapped so hard she threw a wine glass across the room. And that's how I learned the difference between lies spoken softly and the truth shouted through broken glass. Let me tell you how we got there, because it didn't happen overnight. Betrayal is like rust. It doesn't just appear. It builds slowly, quietly eating away at the metal until one day the whole thing collapses. Looking back, the signs were there. I just didn't want to see them. We'd been together for 4 years, married for 2. On paper, everything looked fine. We had the apartment, the photos from vacations on the fridge, the bills paid on time. She was smart, witty, beautiful in a way that drew people in effortlessly. When she smiled, she made you feel like you were the only person in the room, and for a long time I believed that smile was mine. But things started changing. It was little stuff at first. The late-night work emails, the phone flipped face down on the table, the sudden need for privacy when she used to share everything. When I asked, she laughed it off. "Don't be dramatic," she'd say, like I was crazy for noticing. And I wanted to believe her. God, I did. Because the alternative was too painful to face. That maybe the woman I built my life with wasn't really building with me at all. The night it all came crashing down was a Friday. I'd made dinner, her favorite pasta, a bottle of red wine. She walked in late, hair perfect, not a crease in her clothes, which was strange for someone who claimed she'd been working overtime. She kissed me on the cheek like nothing was wrong, and started scrolling on her phone. That phone, it had become a wall between us. Every laugh, every smirk aimed at the screen felt like a knife in my ribs, and that night, I couldn't take it anymore. When she left the room to change, I picked it up. I know, you're not supposed to invade someone's privacy, but sometimes survival demands it. The messages were right there, not even hidden under a fake name, just a thread with Aaron, a co-worker, the same guy she'd mentioned a dozen times, always in passing, always too casually. I scrolled, flirty comments, inside jokes I wasn't part of, and then the kind of texts you can't unsee once you've read them. "Last night was perfect. When's round 2? Wish I was in your bed right now instead of this boring meeting." And the one that made my vision blur. "Don't worry, he suspects nothing. He's too busy being dramatic." I put the phone down slowly, like it might explode. My hands were shaking. My heart was hammering so loud I thought she might hear it from the bedroom. She came back out, barefoot, comfortable, smiling like she hadn't just destroyed me with a few sentences. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat across from me, and started talking about her day, and I just stared at her, every word she spoke sounding like static. Finally, I cut her off. "So, how's Aaron?" Her head snapped up. For a split second, her eyes widened. Then she smirked, rolled her eyes, and said the line she always said, "Don't be dramatic." Something in me broke. I picked up the phone, opened the messages, and started reading them out loud, one by one, slowly, my voice shaking, but clear enough that every word echoed off the walls. Her smile dropped, her face flushed red. She told me to stop. She tried to grab the phone, but I kept going, louder now, until the words filled the apartment like a siren. "Wish I was in your bed right now instead of this boring meeting." That's when she snapped. She screamed, "Shut up," and hurled her wine glass across the room. It shattered against the wall, red wine spraying like blood across the white paint. The sound was deafening. My ears rang, my heart pounded. We stood there, both breathing hard. The silence after the crash was worse than the yelling. She looked at me like a cornered animal, wide-eyed, frantic, caught in the light with no way to escape. I put the phone down on the table. My voice was calm, too calm. "You said don't be dramatic. But this is real. This is you. This is what you've been doing behind my back." She broke then. Tears, excuses, a flood of words about how it wasn't serious, how it just happened, how she still loved me. She reached for me, but I stepped back. Because once you've heard your partner promise someone else the things they used to promise you, there's no going back. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, staring at the shattered glass on the floor, replaying every moment of our relationship like a film reel. All the times she said don't be dramatic. All the times I doubted myself instead of her. And I realized, every time I believed her, I was letting her rewrite the story. She was the one being dramatic, living in lies, while I was the one clinging to the truth with bloody fingers. I didn't confront Aaron. I didn't send angry texts or threats, because he wasn't the one who swore vows to me. She was, and she'd broken them with a smirk and a glass of wine. The days after were a blur. Friends called, family asked questions. She tried to spin it, saying I'd overreacted, that I was dramatic, but the texts spoke for themselves. And once I showed a few people, the narrative shifted. She wasn't the loyal wife anymore. She was the liar caught red-handed. And me, I walked out, packed a bag, left the apartment, left the shattered glass and the lies behind. Because sometimes survival isn't about fighting, it's about leaving before you drown. But that's just the first half of the story, because the real test wasn't catching her. It was what came next, the fallout, the aftermath, The way her web of lies collapsed around her when I stopped playing the quiet, trusting fool. Part 2. The wine glass still lay shattered against the wall, red stains dripping down like some ugly painting. I left it there, not because I was too broken to clean it, but because it felt symbolic, like the perfect portrait of what she had turned our marriage into. Sharp pieces, blood-colored stains, and a mess she would never admit she made. The morning after was eerily quiet. She tried to act normal, walking around barefoot, tiptoeing over shards, pretending as if last night hadn't happened. I watched her pour coffee, her hands trembling, and she said in this small voice, "We can fix this. Please don't throw it all away over one mistake." One mistake, that's what she called it. Like I hadn't read months of texts. Like I hadn't seen her laugh at his jokes in writing, make plans for nights I thought she was working late, confess how he makes me feel alive again. One mistake? No. A mistake is forgetting to lock the door. A mistake is missing an anniversary dinner. This was betrayal. Repeated, rehearsed, refined. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just said, "Do you realize you've been telling me not to be dramatic while living a double life? Do you even hear yourself?" She cried then, real tears, messy, loud. She clutched my arm, begged me to believe her, swore she'd cut him off. But I'd already stopped being the man who believed her words. I was now the man who believed evidence, screenshots, patterns, and every single one of those pointed to the same truth. She was never going to stop. I left that morning with a bag slung over my shoulder. No plan, no destination, just the instinct to get out before her lies wrapped around me again. I stayed with a friend that week. When she called, I ignored it. When she texted, I didn't reply, and that silence drove her mad. Here's what people don't tell you. Silence is more powerful than screaming. She wanted me angry. Anger she could flip into pity, but silence was a mirror she couldn't stand to look into. She texted, "Please come home." Then it wasn't real. He wasn't real. Then finally, "Fine, leave. Be dramatic like always." That last one almost made me laugh. Even now, with everything crumbling, she clung to the line that had always worked on me. Don't be dramatic. But I wasn't being dramatic. I was being done. The fallout was fast. She tried spinning the story to our friends, told them I overreacted, that I'd snooped, that nothing physical had happened. But then the texts started leaking. Not from me, I never sent them, but from people I had shown privately, people who couldn't stomach her lies and let the truth spill in whispers. Suddenly, her one mistake wasn't a mistake at all. It was public knowledge. Even Aaron pulled away. The texts dried up. The late-night calls stopped, because men like him don't stick around once the fun turns into fallout. He ghosted her, leaving her to clean up the wreckage on her own. She came to see me once more, a month later, thinner, paler, her confidence cracked. She stood at the door of my friend's apartment, eyes swollen from crying, and said, "I ruined everything. Please, let's start over." I looked at her and realized something. I didn't hate her. Hate would have meant I still cared. What I felt was emptiness, like a fire that had burned out, leaving nothing but cold ash. I said, "We can't start over. You ended it the moment you threw that glass." Her face crumpled. She tried again, whispering, "Don't be dramatic." And for the first time I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was absurd, how that phrase, the one she'd used for years to silence me, was now meaningless. "This isn't drama," I told her. "This is reality, and reality doesn't care about your excuses." Then I shut the door. That was it. That was the last time I saw her. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. Slowly, painfully. Some nights I lay awake replaying the crash of that glass, hearing her scream "shut up" as I read her own words back to her. But over time, it became less of a wound and more of a lesson. She taught me that loyalty isn't proven in promises, it's proven in actions. That anyone who tells you not to be dramatic when your gut is screaming at you is just trying to dim the light so their shadows don't show. And me, I came out stronger, quieter, yes, but sharper. No longer the man who doubted himself every time someone swore "trust me." Now I trust me. My instincts, my evidence, my worth. She said, "Don't be dramatic." But in the end, the drama wasn't mine, it was hers. And when the glass shattered, it wasn't just a moment of rage. It was the sound of her lies breaking open for the world to hear.